Like, I used to find my solace and comfort in sports growing up, so I was doing as many sports as possible: swimming, volleyball, rugby, anything that made me like look fit, or had to like not look at myself like that and seen as even on the field was something I really started to treasure. So I used to enter the groups of the boys or whatever, because I was always out with the boys, just like playing or whatever, and I found it as a safe haven. And I think growing up, the females around me would see that very often and get nervous about it. Like, why don't you do this? Or why are you not wearing earrings? What's wrong with you? Like, so even now I have like mild, like anytime I look at beautiful earrings, I want to get it. But then I hear like all my aunts growing up, and I'm like, I'm going to look like a woman if I wear that. I don't want it anymore. So it's really hard, like, accepting even forms of, or articles of clothing and jewelries and accessories, because of those mindsets that come into your mind growing up. Like, they're kids now in the age of Aquarius that know themselves and like go through whatever is necessary and have more acceptance, but also see an object as not male or female. They just see it as what it is, which is what I love about the community here, like the queer community. I just feel like not my inner child, but like my whole self and inner child is like held in that. Like, I don't have to pick a jewelry and get upset or nervous about it. Like, I just know that like all my queer friends are fine with it, and like they see me and I'm open. So it's been a lot of like growth in the sense of like self-acceptance. They are bumpy days, everyone has those days, but like it's getting a lot better now than it used to be when I used to be in a more confined environment and everyone's seeing you that way continuously. At least I have breathing room now with people around me. So that's that.
And now I feel like even now, because of like, for me, I'm still really in a space of like, not confusion, but just I have no sure idea of my gender yet. Like, something is still very new to me and something I'm like working through on a daily basis. And so like, when I put on like a dress, I might really enjoy that experience, but halfway through the day I might start feeling very like uncomfortable, or feeling like I've never been gendered like from someone that doesn't know me as anything other than she, so I'll put these things on and I feel very like confined to a certain way of being viewed, which is fine to some extent, but it still messes with like my internal perception. So like that can be really can be confusing. And also like, if I wear like dresses and like more feminine clothing for an extended period of time, I start to like almost invalidate myself, because I don't have like the vision that I feel most like comfortable with, and I have people around me like expressing how they feel about me in a very like feminine way, so it gets like a little, I don't know, it gets a little confusing. And like in terms of passing in that way, like I don't know if I would have such an issue with my chest if people didn't gender me as female because of it. Like, I don't know, because that's not a world that I've lived in ever. But like all of those things that like feel so uncomfortable, a lot of it is because of how people like treat and view and like react to me. And a lot of it is because like, I don't know, like I feel like it's a mix between internal and external like experiences. Like there's like the part of myself that knows how I feel, and then there's a part of myself that needs to enact that on my body so that the world accepts me for how I feel. And that can be like, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but like it's awesome that like people have the opportunity sometimes to take those steps like you have for yourself, and like be able to like externally feel how you feel internally. But it's also like sad that people like won't accept people for who they are, and sometimes unless they take those measures, and that's like where I feel like it can be tricky, you know. Like if you're a man and you've been a man since you were born, like having tits shouldn't matter. Not like to the self, but to anyone else. Like you should still be allowed to be treated as a man with your tits and like that, and whatever the fuck, like if you want to wear a dress and like have long hair and like whatever you feel, like it shouldn't be a signifier of anything except how you feel that day. So
coming back home and like they'll be like, everyone just does a double take and be like, nah, you're not the person that left.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So, and it's been a very like isolating journey in that I don't know anyone who's non-binary and Nigerian at all.
Yeah.
So it's like breaking forward and being. I'm not saying in a way where there's none. They're probably internally repressed as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm one that like had the courage to leave
Yeah.
and find a safe space to like regroup and take time like deconstructing a lot of walls that were put up in front of me by people who took care of me growing up. And it's not like my personality has changed at all. I am still the same like quirky, awkward, funny, all the good stuff anyone likes to name themselves as. But it's just one thing that doesn't even encompass my whole identity that like blocks any good thing that I am. So now in my life is a lot of like self-reflection and holding myself a lot, and even holding the child version of myself, the one that's been shunned, the one that's been yelled at, the ones that have faced a lot of difficult situations even to this very point, and be like, it's okay, you're doing pretty well for now. Like you're really trying what you can. Like there's only so far you can go accommodating everyone till like you really have to do it for yourself, and I don't know when my tipping point is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at right now. It's more like, when am I going to be like, I love you guys, but I'm tired of catering my whole identity to you and move on from that, or still stay restricted. So that's just a big step. I will let you know the day when I'm just like, ha! I'm going forward with it, I'm finally doing it. But for now, I'm going to take it baby steps.
Yeah. One of the things that gives me the most dysphoria is when people treat me as if they think I'm a woman.
Right.
Like that, like more than anything else, gives me like intense dysphoria.
Yeah.
And like that's something that people often don't talk about because they think like, oh, dysphoria is like a physical thing. And it is. Like I haven't had it nearly as much since I got top surgery, but like before then I had very bad dysphoria about my chest. But I feel like the social part of it doesn't get talked about enough, because like the dysphoria that I felt at the youngest age and that I was like most aware of throughout my life has been people not being able to see me for the guy that I am, and like not treating me like a guy, and like not accepting me into like the groups of other guys.
Right.
You know?
That makes sense.
Like my entire life there's always been like, these like groups of men that I know that I've like wanted to be a part of, but that I couldn't because they didn't see me that way.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, for me growing up, I also did the sports thing, but like I think my dad, this is what my mom said to me, so like who knows, but my dad like really wanted me to be more like a boy when I was growing up, just because like he wanted a son. So I was like in football practice and I played the drums and like all of these like, not that that means anything, but typically like masculine things around like groups of guys more. But then in school it was a whole other thing where like I'd be wearing my football jerseys and like whatever the hell I wanted to school, and I'd get bullied for like playing the drums or these things that like have no reason to be bullying anyone for, like it's just a musical instrument. But like I kind of like internalized that, and I ended up going in this whole other direction where I really like became ultra feminine. And like it's also for me like I've always seen my body as a very feminine body, like small waist, like big boobs, hips, whatever. Like obviously like everyone's bodies look different, so for me it was really hard to separate how I was perceived by other people, like always by like cis men growing up as like very sexualized in that way. And then like being very sexualized by men and having a lot of like negative experiences with men growing up, it was then became really hard for me to even accept a masculine side of myself, because it was seen as something really scary for me and something like that I wanted to distance myself from. Like I grew up with a lot of male friends and a lot of like these parts of myself that I then became very fearful of, just because of like either being bullied for having that within myself or having these like scary experiences, and I would only wear like flowery dresses if you want to like put like a label on like ultra feminine, like,
Yeah.
and heels every day, which was awful, like
Mhm.
just for the height of it and the pain of it and whatever. And I think it was like a year and a half ago now, and I was going to therapy at the time in New York. I've been in a lot of therapy throughout my life, and like I had taken a break because I was nervous, and I went back in. And I was seeing this therapist, and she was good, like she was like a really like nice person, but she also like was cis and straight and just didn't really necessarily understand what I was going through, so I was simultaneously questioning my sexuality and gender because I wasn't out as gay either. So I kind of came to her with these things, and one night I just decided, like out of the blue, I was alone, I lived alone at the time, and I like made my face up the way I would imagine myself as a guy, and like drew a little mustache and like a beard, and I was like really feeling myself, and I felt great. And I sent a picture to one friend, but I was really nervous. Like I also, I think still even have a lot of like internalized transphobia, like obviously that comes mostly only at myself, but I like was nervous about this picture, and I felt a little confident and a little gross about myself at the same time, which was hard to navigate. My friend was like, yes, like go you, this is great. And I went into therapy the next day, and I showed my therapist, who kind of laughed at me and just like was like, you're going through a phase, like really just like, and I'm like, it's a therapist, I guess you know more than me, like really like taking my knowledge away from myself and gonna give it to her, and I eventually ended up leaving.
Sarah was like throwing hearts at the camera. The camera crew over there. Shout out to Kavi.
Thanks,
Kavi. And he's asleep.
Aww. What a sweetie. I love that he's just like, this is where I want to be.
Let's talk. Honestly.
If you are in a different part of the country or the world, I would love for you to sit down with some trans friends of yours and talk about gender, talk about what it is about being trans that you think about a lot, what impacts you, and be part of this conversation together, because it's healing to talk about these things.